Ask the experts. Wise people never make important decisions by themselves, but first seek the advice of an expert. The best way of approaching a task is by seeking advice from the most knowledgeable person in the field. Many people, however, do not seek the advice of others. Because of delusions about their own ability and importance, they feel too ashamed to ask. Making a decision by oneself on the spur of the moment, divorced from knowledge, experience, and wisdom, could easily open the door to error and failure. Since you are faced with the many decisions in life, starting a business, finding a spouse, or providing a good education for your children, consult a specialist in that field first. It is even better if you consult 3 experts and not just one person. Once you have listened to their advice, do not simply follow it to the letter, but pray for at least 21 days on the issue. If you then make a careful decision, you will suffer less from trial and error, and the likelihood of failure will be lessened. Whether in spiritual practice, business, or education, you will succeed if you lower yourself and then do your best. The fragrance of a virtue. The fragrance of roseberry or sandalwood does not spread against the wind, but the fragrance of virtue spreads on every side, regardless of the wind. The scent of a flower spreads only in the direction of the wind, as it is a physical phenomenon. But the spiritual scent and the fragrance of virtue accumulated in the mind spreads in all directions. In Korean, someone who has accumulated great merit is called a full person, while someone who has accumulated virtue is fulfilled person, and one with wisdom is fair person. You plant merit by helping and giving to others, and wisdom develops by being humble, lowering yourself, and having the mindset of learning from others. To accumulate virtue, you must be able to hold your tongue. Virtue will not grow when you find faults in others, argue over the right or wrong of their situation. Virtue will blossom when you practice the mindset of covering up the faults of others as if they were your own, and uncovering your own faults as if they were the faults of others. Virtue also grows in the mind that puts others before oneself and tries to understand them. Ego. When people look at family photographs, whose face do they look at first? It is said that everyone looks at their own faces first. Even if the picture contains a spouse one is devoted to or children one loves, the way of the human mind is to be interested in oneself first and one's spouse or children second. What does this mean? It implies that what matters most to us is ourselves, whereas our children, husband, or wife are of secondary importance. We say that we work for the family and look after the house, but what comes first and matters to us more than husband, wife, children, or relatives is ourselves. Having lived for ourselves for countless eons, it is perhaps only natural that our minds should work this way. However, most people are unaware of the true nature of the ego inside us, how deep-rooted and fundamental it is to our being, how it affects us, how selfish it is in living for itself only. Parents invariably say that they live for their children, but in many cases, they're in fact seeking to satisfy themselves through their children. Although they say that it is for their children, ultimately they are living for themselves. Only by cleansing the ego that is bound by the notion of I can one truly live for others and truly love oneself. Through the practice of lowering oneself and not imposing oneself on others, and the practice of living for Buddha, the ego melts away. Lower yourself, practice reverence towards Buddha, practice the teachings of Buddha. This practice must become part of your daily life and part of your character. Just as a great pear tree bears much delicious fruit, you must persevere in the journey of your eternal soul's enlightenment until it bears a fruitful outcome.